Welcome, everyone. This is the monthly Golden Gate Computer Society meeting, and we will be recording this. So if you do not want to be heard, or your voice or your images, you can stay muted. Well, stay muted until we go to the question and answer. Because if you move a chair around or your dog barks, or any of those things, you will be highlighted, and all of a sudden you will be in focus for the Zoom meeting. So please keep your microphones muted, and we will open it up for questions later on. Our guest speaker tonight is no stranger to our group, Judy Taylour. So welcome, Judy. And I'm going to let you do the introduction, because you do that a lot better than me. And either Steve and I will probably mess it up. So go ahead and take it.
Okay. I'm 35 miles northwest of Los Angeles. And I do have people argue with me who don't live out here and say, no, you're northeast, but no, I'm really northwest. And I hang out in the Santa Clarita Valley, and I've been working with computers since the mid-'80s. And it's a fun learning experience, and I love to learn something new every single day about computers. Makes it more fun. I taught adult ed tech classes to seniors in the ending thing of it. I 22 years, loved every minute of it. Started out with a parent participation preschool with 3- and 4-year-olds. And I'm here to tell you that 3- and 4-year-olds and spent 9 years as a kindergarten volunteer after I retired. And that age level pays better attention than you guys. They understand and follow directions better too. And when I say that at the Wednesday workshop, there's all of this going on. They know I'm speaking a true statement. This presentation I call my living presentation about death, because I keep updating it. If when I'm finished, you might think, she didn't include this. And if you let me know what I didn't include, I'll add it to the presentation. And please hold your questions to the end. Thank you so much. And that's who I am. So this is a really silly question. How much of your life is virtual? Well, we've been doing this for such a long time that, with some people, almost all of their life is virtual. They haven't written a check in 1,000 years, you know what I mean? And I doubt you know anybody who doesn't have a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone, even a Fitbit type thing. So every email, payment, movie, picture, anything that you can think of that's in the cloud, that's on our hard drive, that's on any of our digital equipment, is considered our digital assets. We own them. So what happens if we die and nobody can retrieve them? Then all the pictures, etc., that you might have in the cloud are gone. Your estate can get stuck in digital probate. And let me tell you, this is something new, and they're always revising it. Every state is different. And so it can be a real mess. And we're the techie people. And so we should have everything set up in advance. So whoever is our digital executor, and I recommend you have one of those in addition to a plain executor. I just have my business daughter is my executor, but she's my digital kid, so it'll be smooth sailing for her. So it's everything, like I said, everything about us that we've typed, nothing goes away on the internet, all that good kind of stuff. So that's considered, so we have a lot of stuff out there. And the year after somebody dies is one of the most vulnerable times for ID theft. I'm sure all of you work diligently to make sure your security is up to date. You don't want somebody, phishing and you fall for it, some kind of scam. We want to stay as safe as we possibly can. And many of us have been working on that for a long time. And we don't want to be unsafe, so to speak, when we're no longer here. But death is a public record, and criminals have absolutely nothing better to do than sit in front of their computers in their bathrobes and fuzzy slippers and look through all the records they can find about people who have just died. And oftentimes what they find, they can easily put a fake identity together. Most people don't think about that. You know, they're not us. These are the kinds of things we need to think about. And we need to tell our relatives and our friends about, you know, taking care of all their information too. It's just not something that people talk about. So it's going to protect your privacy, your identity, and your reputation if you set everything up in advance. And your heirs aren't going to get caught in a long, drawn out probate process. And again, it's still being legally defined. It's new. So they want, just like now, they want to take our personal information because they want to commit fraud. They want to be able to take over accounts, taxpayer ID theft, refund fraud, medical ID theft, driver's license ID theft. They want to apply for new credit cards and loans. And if they'd like to, I laugh at applying for employment. But nothing's changed. It's just not, we're not here to monitor this kind of stuff and make sure this doesn't happen. It's called ghosting. Whoever's your executors, problems with your estate, the creditors come after your heirs, lenders are being fooled, and some of your hard-earned money can just be lost. We don't want that to happen. So, your obituary, I suggest everybody do it in advance. Whoever puts it together after the fact is sad. When my son died, it was his sisters and me, and we were very protective of what we put out there. He was not into social media or anything, and I checked a couple of years ago what we had said, and we did a really good job about thinking about what would he like, how much information would he like out there. So that's you. How much information do you want out there about you? They're published in newspapers. They're online at a tribute page, whichever mortuary is taking care of it, or where you're buried, or ashes, or whatever. They might have a page about you. So you want to make sure there's not too much personal information there. If you get a pop-up somewhere, you have a friend who dies, or you just happen to read one, it's amazing what you'll find. People put everything in there but the kitchen sink, and it's really unfortunate. So I called our local newspaper and said, could you please send me the obit form? And this is the first part of it. And then the date of birth. Just give your age. If they've got your date of birth, they can try to get a birth certificate. Where were you born? Well, the same thing. They can do some research, gathering information. Your parents' names. Everybody puts their mother's, name, middle name, and that is one of the best things for ID theft is your mother's maiden name. Back in the day, when we filled out something, we were usually asked, and what is your mother's maiden name? And not many of us thought of putting in a phony one. Like, how would they know what her maiden name was, for heaven's sakes? High school, college, okay. If you put the graduation year, like it was 1,000 years ago, so who cares? They can go to the yearbook. If you have a 50-year reunion, 30-year reunion, whatever, there's no telling what people have written up and are on your high school or college, under the year that you graduated. Do you really need to put your marriage date? Say you've been married 3 times. Do you really want all that information out there? Is it necessary? You decide. And memberships. I don't think anybody cares how long I've been volunteering for APCUG. But back in the day. There's no telling on old records that are still out there on the internet the amount of information we put out about people before we knew we shouldn't be doing that. Same thing with your volunteer positions. Okay. What do you want everybody to know that they really can't do anything with? So your mother's maiden name, you put your address in there. Possible when everybody gets back from the funeral and the after service food and stuff, they walk in your house and oh my gosh, most of the stuff is gone. Well, the burglars knew nobody was going to be there. Use your age, name of school, pet's name. We are told repeatedly, please do not put your pet's name in any of your passwords. People still do that. So if I have my 2 cats here, neither one of them are in anything password wise or anything, but a lot of people do that. That's a step towards being able to figure out what one of or more of your passwords is. So with a name, address, birth date, bad guys can purchase your social security number on the internet for as little as $10. I got that from AARP, and that really made me feel bad that I wasn't worth more than $10. But now, since the breach from that company down in Florida, all of our social security numbers are out on the dark web in the open. There's no password to get to them. And on that note, you can get your social security number changed. If it really, you're scared out of your whatever about somebody's going to get fraud going about you and your social security number is up there, you can get it changed. Check out a Malwarebytes article on it. So I personally don't want a thief to become me and rack up a lot of charges, open new accounts, and trash my identity. I have worked many years to keep it going just like it is. I've never had any problems with anything. So our digital assets, you got your social media, your email accounts. They're going to be around when we know somebody's going to need to close them for us. Managing our digital legacy is really the trickiest part of our estate planning because we have to remember so much. We have to set everything up if, we're the good guys because we know how to do this. And if we don't plan ahead, our family might not have access to photos or videos that are online. And all that stuff that you've been saving is gone and not reachable. They'll have problems settling our final bills and much more. This digital stuff, like I said, is a new process. And of course, when you sign up for things, everybody does it differently. They have their own terms of service. Well, it's the same thing about closing them down. So federal and state laws, that's another hurdle. They're changing those. And we want to make sure that our digital executor doesn't, violate anything in the Stored Communications Act. We don't want that to happen. And state and federal, the laws are against fraud and ID theft. Those people don't want that to happen to us either, but it's an obstacle. Family members are going to be new to doing this, and the laws are rapidly changing. There is somebody in the government, the group, that they're trying to put a standard set of laws together. And California, they will have their laws, and California will have their own way of doing it, and it will probably be more strict than the government comes up with. So again, they're not standard. We work with a Uniform Law Commission is trying to get their act together and do it. So what you need to start with is a list. We need to make a list of every single thing that has a username and a password and that needs to be shut down one way or the other. And I just think these graphics are cute. So that's the thing, some of them that we need to think about. And there's a longer list, and I'm sure all you people have more than I have there. I don't have all of this, but this made a nice equal bullet point slide. But I suggest, you get a notebook and a pen or a pencil, and, you keep it by the TV. You've already started your list on whatever you use. For me, it would be a computer, and I might be watching television, and something will pop in, and I'll think, oh, I need to add that to my list. I want to be able to write it down. So after the TV show's over with, I remember what it is I want to add to my list. If you're a phone person, you can use that to keep your notes in it, but you need to have your thinking cap on and write down as many of you can, put them in your computer, whatever you want to do, and then wait for the other ones to just filter in. And we're still gonna, forget things. Every once in a while, something will pop up and I'll think, oh my gosh, I haven't used that for 1,000 years. And be a good person in that case and close the program or the app or whatever it is. Don't leave it for somebody else to close. So there's all our devices. How many entertainment accounts do you have? Do you buy eBay, QVC? Do you bank online? I'm going to say probably most of us do. My daughter has a mother-in-law who still writes checks, and sometimes she even drives around town and delivers them. Can't figure that out, but she just doesn't trust doing it online. Prepare bills. Do you have money management or tax programs? How many subscriptions do you have? Here's where I thought, I don't have many. I got 365, I have this, I have that. And then Good Housekeeping pops up. Oh yeah, I pay that online. So you need to have all of those recorded someplace. How many social media accounts do you have? I have Facebook, and I have set it up that it is to be closed, but you can have it memorialized if you want to. Your choice, but you need to make the choice. Every January, I get an email from Facebook, and it says, wish Rich Chanel happy birthday. Rich has been dead over 20 years. He was an only child. He had no family. He had nobody to close his Facebook account. So I get reminded of him every January. So you have a podcast, you have a YouTube channel, you've got a website or e-commerce store. You have to make sure that's closed properly. And who's going to get the money? Is somebody going to carry it on for you, or are you going to shut it down? Have to make the decisions now. So, and I say, do you really need all of them? When I started doing this, I wouldn't have a Yahoo account for anything, but I had one so I could do screenshots for my students. And I thought, I will close my Yahoo account, and patted myself on the back and said, oh, you're such a good person. Hey, you're such a good mother, since one of my daughters is my executor. And then I thought, you don't need LinkedIn anymore. I had a LinkedIn account because of the Southwest Technology Conference. We thought that maybe somebody would read about it on LinkedIn and want to donate something to us. So I shut that down. Almost everything else I still use. So that's one of the ways you need, after you make your list, think, I haven't used that in years. Close it. Don't leave it for somebody else to do. Do you have accounts that are paid automatically? You got to have that. And the biggie is you have photos or photo albums in the cloud. Those definitely need to have the username and password on a list so they can do something with them. They might trash all of them, but you've got them and you want to pass them on to somebody else. So you need to let them know how to get into whatever account that is. Do you just have a lot of photos that nobody is going to know who they are after you're gone? I have had a trunk on my hearth that was brought over in the early 19th century, so to speak, when they started the second Standard Oil refinery in El Segundo. And my dad's dad and my daddy and his sisters came over from Pennsylvania to El Segundo so his dad could help start the refinery. And it was my aunt's house in El Segundo. And I thought, everything's going to be mildewed. Well, for some reason, it wasn't. And it was filled with old photos and strange clothes. Well, I'm a tag along. My brothers were almost in World War II when I was born. And so I don't know any of these people. I didn't even know my grandparents. They were dead before I had one grandpa before I was born. So I one day sat and just tore them all up. I thought, I don't want my kids to have to open this up and go, good grief, Mom, why in the world didn't you do something with this stuff? So you need to think about those kinds of things, or at least write the name on the back, scan them, put them into a digital format. The majority of us are retired and we're supposed to have all the time in the world to do this, but sometimes we don't. But again, we can take proactive steps to make it easier for our executor. Down in Florida, I gave this presentation, and during Q&A, this guy said, hey, you don't have anything in there about genealogy. I don't do genealogy. Anybody that I had, take a look at all my forms, they didn't mention it. And he said, you have to decide what you're going to do with your DNA test results. So I researched it for the, second and third bullet points and added it and then shipped it out to the Florida attendees with what he suggested. So I thought, thank you very much for telling me that. So I suggest you have a digital executor. I called my attorney who put my living trust together, and we were talking about something, and I mentioned this presentation. He says, digital executor. Huh? What are you talking about? So I explained it to him, and he said, would you share your handouts with me? I said, sure, no big deal. I don't have any ownership. And he says, I'm going to add them. I'm going to go through them and add them to the questions that he already sends out to people when they're getting ready to put their will or living trust together. And all I could think of was, good Lord, I had so many pages to complete. I couldn't imagine having to complete more. But, your digital asset person needs to understand about technology. I gave this presentation in Pennsylvania. During Q&A again at the end, this guy raised his hand and said, Judy, I thought I had everything completely done, literally. And he said, I just realized my executor doesn't know anything about technology. And I thought, oops. And he realized how much work he had to do. So again, they need to know about all of these things. We're all Windows people, but I had an Android. Everybody else had the iPhone, and I changed over to an iPhone, so that would just be super simple for them. And but do they use Linux? Depending upon how knowledgeable they are, can they use a Mac? Can they do this? So they need to know about things like this. They can't be some person who just searches the web and reads their email. They're going to need to know more than that. And please do not include any logins or passwords in a will because it is a public document. But we can make it easier for our digital executor. We can research how to close accounts. We could even create a list of URLs instead of having them, go to Google. Well, where does Google take you when you want to close an account? Or we could download the instructions, put a nice little package together and have them say, oh, thank you, Mom, for doing this for us. Other than, oh, Lord, I'm going to have to all look this stuff up. Mother, why didn't you do it? So what are we going to use for our account information? Logins, passwords for everything that needs to be closed. Do you use password program? If you do, congratulations. That is the easiest thing to use. I just bought a new dishwasher, And I included the information in my password program. So they're not going to think, okay, now how long has mom had this? Oh, she has an extended warranty on this. All right, we need to make sure that information is, passed on to whoever buys the house, those kinds of things. Do you have them on an encrypted flash drive, an encrypted file on your computer? If so, that's fine. You have to remember to update the information just like you do with your password program. And of course, you need to give the username and password to your executor. Do you have a list in a notebook? Many people have all their usernames, account information in a notebook. Presentation on the other side of Pennsylvania. Guy raises his hand and he says, really liked your presentation, and it made me think nobody can read my handwriting. He says, sometimes I can't even read my handwriting. He had all his usernames and passwords in a notebook and just realized nobody's going to be able to use it. He needs to come up with something else. So there, the internet address and password logbook, a group on the East Coast gave their members one of those. And I got the biggest kick out of that. I thought, here I am working at the computer, and I have my internet address and password logbook right there next to me so I can look everything up. Maintenance people come to the house. Oh, look, there's a notebook with all that information in there. They open it up and get their phone out and start taking pictures. I just thought that was the weirdest thing for a tech club to give to their members. So you need to designate somebody who can access your passwords in the event you're unavailable. Back in the day, you had to, actually get in touch and do this, but now with a lot of the accounts, you can, specify somebody that would be your executor, so to speak, and you can specify a waiting period and say, if you don't hear from me and, I don't log in a week, then they can have access to it, or you can say they can get access to it anytime they want to. Again, it's your choice. A lot of people like Dashlane. They have dark web monitoring. They all have dark web monitoring now. They all alert you about breaches and hacks, but they have patents. That is the only software company that I have ever seized that has patents for their security. I thought that was cool. 1Password says they have never, ever been hacked. Joe Kissel from Take Control Books gives a presentation on that. And this one, if you travel a lot, it somehow removes your sensitive data for your devices when you cross borders, and it restores it when you arrive. Bitwarden, I used to have LastPass in here, and it's been hacked too many times. The last time they actually got usernames and passwords. And many APCUG people went directly from LastPass to Bitwarden and said exporting over was seamless. And it, of course, is free, open source, if you are a proponent of open source software. So the digital executor, whoever it may be, needs access to your phone or email account where verification information is sent. Oh my gosh, I forgot my password, and let us send you a code. I have everything at my email account I've had since 2003. So my executor knows that doesn't get closed until you are finished with everything. Just in case you mess up with typing in the password too many times and they want to do the verification code business. And so she knows that is one of the last things. You can create a list of accounts and backup codes with your 2FA. You usually find that information where you set the 2FA up in the first place. Do you need a fingerprint to access your phone, your laptop, whatever? You might want to take a look and see if there's another way to access it. My Pixel, I set it up to require a fingerprint, and a standing joke was, wherever I am, just bring my phone down, pick up my hand, and put it on there to open it. which would be our laugh because they don't think their mother's ever going anyplace. And besides, my finger would be cold, and it wouldn't work. So think about things like this, facial recognition. And we need to keep them up to date. You change something, you've got a notebook, a flash drive, it's on your hard drive. You need to remember every single time to change it. Okay? And many websites say, hey, haven't got everything all together yet. We can help you with that. One of those is Everplans. And I just searched. I've been giving this since 2017. I just searched, and this one came up. And they would like to help you put your stuff together. And they say, store and share everything important. And Everplan is a secure digital archive of everything your loved ones will need should something happen to you. Okay, thank you for letting me know that. And this is what they have to offer. And this is, over the years, they have done considerable updating as technology has changed their website. But these are all the things. They have information online for you. And it's all free. Obviously, people don't want to do it themselves, and that's how they get their money to keep their business going. But from what they offer, anybody that's tech savvy can go in here and set everything up themselves. Okay? And they say 84% are less productive when they feel disorganized. Oh my gosh, I don't have anything put together yet. And every year I'm a year older, and oh my. 86 are less stressed when they're organized. So get your act in gear and become one of those 86% who have everything done. And 65% of us feel anxious when critical info is all over the place. Get it organized. And I always say, when my daughters walk in the door and put their hands on their hips and say, okay, where's all mom's stuff? I'm going to have my plan all put together on my list, and they are going to know where everything is. They're not even going to need to worry about it. So you need a Social Security account. I don't care if you don't ever use it, ever, but you need one. Your kids need one. Your grandkids need one, because you want to create an account before one of the fraudsters makes one for you in your name, and it's not really you. And that does happen. So you need to set one up. I had to use mine last year. I thought, pay attention to what you preach and set one up. And I did, and I've never used it. And I had to use it last year. And I was glad I had one. And if you already say, I've already got one, but if you set it up before 2021, you need to transition to a new or existing login.gov account. They're getting everything together. They want to be able to make it more secure for everybody. And you will get access to this presentation. And there's the link where you can find out how to do that. You also need an IRS account. And again, I really don't care if you're ever going to use it. You want to have one before some bad guy takes over your name and information and sets one up. And you need to create an IRS account. And they say, I'm sorry, you already have one. And I gave this presentation to the Glendora group, which is an hour east of me. First question was, he said, and I don't know if it was IRS or Social Security, I don't remember. He said, I had that happen. He says, I have been working on this for a year. And he says, I've gone to the office, I've taken paperwork with me, and after 12 months, I still haven't gotten to be able to create my own account. And that was because somebody beat him to it. You don't want that to happen. So title deed fraud, I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but according to the FBI, property title deed fraud is on the rise. Criminals are creating fake documents that they can get at Amazon or Staples or Office Max, whatever, to claim ownership of your house, your vacation house, your rental, whatever. So my suggestion is Google your county for title deed information. I was not, and I chose Marin again. I couldn't remember where you guys really are, but Marin. But it leaves a lot to be desired if you happen to live in Marin County, as far as I'm concerned. They talk on the left, that's from the Fighting Real Estate Fraud website, and the recorder's office. In SoCal, it's the tax assessor. And then you can click through to the DA's office, and there's a form that you can fill out. But what they say in there is if they detect any change, they will send you information about it. The LA assessor says that can take up to 30 days. By that time, your home is gone. So this is what we have. In January of 2023, I received an email from the assessor saying, "Hi there, Judy. You should click on the link and set this up." And my first thought was, how in the world did they get my email address? It's not that I hang out at the assessor's office, for heaven's sakes, or anything with that. And I sent it out to everybody I knew, and not one person other than me had received this. And again, I thought, well, I'm glad that they did have my email address. So I immediately set up my e-notification. And their contention is by 30 days, you're out of luck. But if you sign up to be notified via email, you'll get notified within 2 or 3 days if there's any action on, and you can act immediately. And I attended a presentation at the Tech Ed Connect group in Upper New York, and 3 ladies were there from the DOJ, their Department of Justice. And they talked about this. And boy, do they have easy ways to get changed title deeds in New York. And it was just, they were kind of shocked that it was so easy to do. And one of the comments was one of the local newspapers submitted paperwork, and it took them 90 minutes. And they were the proud owners of the Empire State Building. 90 minutes was all it took, because nobody has to see anybody. You can get somebody that claims to be a notary with a fake stamp. They're not going to know that. You put everything in online. And of course, they immediately turned it back, but that was part of their article. And they said, these gals said that they had written a new law and it would go into effect in January of 2025. It was not as good as what we are doing in LA County. I suggest every single person who owns a house in whatever county, I gave this to the Texas group. I thought they were in Dallas. Some of them lived in Dallas. Somebody lived in the county next door. Every county does it differently. But let me tell you, if they're going to instill in the we'll send you a letter mode, I would start rattling some cages and say, hey, why don't you do like LA County does and set up an email notification? Because I wouldn't want to find after 30 days when I got this and you thought, what is this about? And you wait another week or so till you do anything and you no longer own your house. Okay. And of course, they are targeting seniors in Florida like crazy. And at my LA FBI Senior Scams Working Group meeting, when I brought this up, they said the fraudsters aren't making as much money as they used to with credit card fraud. So they're really working on this type of fraud. Go figure. Do you need to let people know at organizations that you are a member of that please take mom or dad or whoever off your email list? And every once in a while, I'll get an email like this at APCUG. And I've never gotten one from the estate. I usually get one that, would you please take my dad or my mom and their name off your email list? And he died, blah, blah, blah. And that always makes me feel bad, but I take them off, but we don't know that. So if you belong to other organizations where you are receiving email from them, let your executor know that they can. I told my, daughter, just send an email out to everybody in my contact list and, let them know that way. And I thought of some, clever words she could. Oh, I know. Mom's no longer online. I thought that would be good enough. So, Yahoo, these are the steps that you have to go through if you do not have a username and password. And I looked this up and I verified these are the same steps. You have to get a copy of the death certificate and you have to send it in to them. I've scanned it as an attachment and on and on. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. And if you have a login and password, you just go to yahoo.com and the user deletion page. Oh my, how easy is that? Enter the password that your executor has because you have a password program or whatever, and they'll probably have more problem with the CAPTCHA pictures than anything else. And then click terminate this account button and boom, you're gone from Yahoo. Are they going to give them any of the emails? No, you're just going to close the account. Gmail, it's a relative or legal rep must contact Google. There's a 12-step form that needs to be completed. They want a scanned copy of the death certificate. They want some kind of ID or driver's license of the person requesting this. And my digital executor oftentimes will not even give anybody the last 4 digits of her social security number. It's amazing what she gets with refusing to do that. It's like, oh, okay, we really don't need that. So having her do the 5th step there would never happen. Oh, just go to inactive account manager and boom, it's done. That's the kind of information we need to leave for our people that have to do this. They will thank us greatly for that. So I have 2 unique Gmail accounts. I have my personal account from 2003 that's USA.net in Middle America. I've got my Tech Clubs account. I've got at least 6 or more APCUG addresses. I need to make sure that she lets them know that her mother's no longer around. And again, you need to think about what organizations do you need to notify. What are you going to do with your Facebook account? There's what, if you decide to memorialize it, decide what happens to your main and you decide, do I want to have people say anything or do I want mine closed? But each one of social media is totally different to do it. So here's Facebook with no login or password. You got a copy of that death certificate there, or they'll take a copy of the birth certificate, power of attorney, will or living trust, or estate letter. But look, they want an obit or a memorial card. Give me a break. And you got to fill out another form and a link to the URL to the person's profile. And all you have to do is go to delete my account page, and there it'll be memorialize or delete, and you're done. How much money do you owe? It's suggested that you create a spreadsheet or a table, whichever you like, of every liability you have and update it at least once a year. And your financial obligations just don't go away. Once you've died, they all have to be paid, and they get paid first before anybody else gets any money. And if you don't decide, you say, I don't want a will, I don't want a living trust, let those people, my heirs, just figure it out themselves. A judge says this is how they're going to be distributed, and he or she is going to appoint an administrator to carry out those decisions, and your family has no say-so at all. Have you co-signed for a loan? Your state's responsible. Are you a joint account holder on a credit card? Your estate is still responsible. Do you have an individual car lease, or are you a co-signer? If you are either one of those, you need to do some research about that, because there are steps that you need to do and take care of. So the estate is filed for probate. Creditors need to file the claims. Assets transferred into a living trust will not require probate. My daughter has access to my checking account. I have my computer club's checking account at the same bank. She can't get that. She can't get into my, well, she can get into my savings account, but she can't get into anything else. And she knows the rules are when I'm no longer here, she immediately goes into my money and leaves a little bit in both my savings and my checking account, and that's it. And they have to watch out for scam calls. Hey, you know, your mom hasn't paid this bill yet. And they'll, if there's ID theft, they need to please take care of it. And again, they're going to contact relatives from the information in the obit. So that's why you want it to put together. You want to be able to look at it and be happy with it, as miserable as that thing that you have to put together because you're no longer here, as my son's sisters and I am with what we put together. The executor, they immediately need to know the Social Security, the IRS. Oh, look, the IRS wants a copy of the death certificate. They should contact each individual credit bureau. You should do the same thing, and it's free. So between now and 12 months from now, you can get a copy of your report, PDF. They'll email it to you, so you can check and make sure there's nothing on there that is not correct. I did that, and they had me living in Florida. Hey, I'm from the beach. I've lived up here for 46 years, 47 in October, perish the thought. So I haven't lived in that many places. I've been in Florida twice going for conferences with APCUG, but I've never lived there. So I had to get that taken care of. I have no clue how that happened, but you need to get your credit reports and check them to make sure they're all, and you might find that old Mervin's charge card that you had 1,000 years ago is still on your credit report. So on. And the DMV says, please return that driver's license, even if it's expired. And if you happen to have a handicap placard or license plate, those need to be returned also. Apparently, there's double digits of thousands old placards that the family just kept, and they're still being used in California. And you need to check with this, you know, presentation is for all states. With the DMV, they really want their stuff back really early after you're no longer here. And again, they want, your executors want to put this on deceased, do not issue credit. If an application is made for credit, please call the following immediately for verification. And they can, you know, that's your executor's phone number there. And so on. Credit bureaus say, please send us a letter along with the date of death and the copy of the death certificate. So they're going to get X amount of death certificates from the funeral home, but they're going to need to make sure they know where to order more. And in my case, it just comes from downtown LA and so on. And I suggest that after a year's up or more, they get your credit reports just to make sure nothing has slipped in. You could also put a freeze on at your 3 credit bureaus. And if somebody tries to open an account in your name, they can't do that. Okay. So I am finished. I hope you learned something new. I hope you're going to take action. If you haven't already started on this, who knows? You might think that nobody can read your handwriting either. I mean, that would just be horrible if I did it that way. Like I said, I want my kids to walk in the front door and be happy with their mother who got all this stuff together for them, because remember, their mother's retired and has all the time in the world now.
Well, Judy, thank you very, very much. That was a very, very good information, and I'm hoping everybody here took some notes. We will have this hopefully on YouTube, and for everybody here, please, if you're not a member yet, and you like this kind of presentation and what have you, go to ggcs.org and sign up. If you haven't renewed recently, sign up. We have revamped the website, so the join options are working. You can just go there and do it. We'd appreciate it. That's we do need funding to pay for Zoom and the website and all this other good stuff. At this point, though, I will go ahead and stop the recording, and then we can open it up for questions. Is that okay for you, Judy?
Yes, and Will has been waving his hand around in the dark.
And he didn't get the message. You're supposed to raise your hand electronically.
We really appreciate you raising your hand. No.
Let me go ahead and stop recording.
Zoom's hand.